Data analytics seems to be the currency of the future, and it can be said that Nigeria is still struggling with it. In this chart, you are about to see Gideon Tobiloba engaged Mr. Chris Owaji, who is often referred to as the oracle of the ICT industry, on issues that borders around Nigeria and the challenges of data analytics. He emphasized on how best we can develop it, apply it, and leverage on it for national development, creation of wealth, national security, and digital survivability. So now talking about Nigeria and the challenges of data analytics. How best can we go about this huge or massive challenge?
That's, as you have described it, that's a tall order. And of course, we should all admit that it is more or less a lifetime challenge, from generations to generations. But that word data, as it were, we know that data is really life. Okay?
Yeah.
And in other words, if we were to navigate the through problem statement when you do research, you could turn your questionnaire upside down. That's in other words, can we really reclassify the problem statement and ask ourselves, does Nigeria have a digital survivability plan? That's what I hear from your question.
Yes,
Do
sir.
we have a digital survivability plan? Can we advance our digital survivability plan as a very critical issue worthy of focus instead of beginning again? Because really we are in a threshold where people will now say, oh, you want to think out of the box. But we are in a situation of survivability through data and information system of entirely thinking without the box. We must begin to think without the box. And to think without the box, we must recognize that data is life. The life we're talking about is about birth to death and everything in between. So, it will interest us that, of course, technology and science have been able to bring humanity to go to the moon. But when you think back, for more than 500 years, man was not on the moon before 1960. How did that happen? And there was no data, empirical data about the moon before the Apollo journey. Now we have microorganisms and substances that we can classify as data. But a lot of those who undertook that scientific drive and data analytics to be able to lead us there are no more. And the beauty is that we still have those data.
So where is Nigeria in the middle of this? Can we say we are on track or we are off track?
You see, the issue of adjudicating blames or getting data to be able to buttress one point or the other does not really hold water. It's about the collective agenda. Because when you say Nigeria, Nigeria is a nation. We're talking about 200 million people and more. Lately, we have read an upgrade that we are now 206 million people in this nation called Nigeria. So, but then the question you ask become relevant when you calibrate them into data structures. Because there are some data structures that will be overperforming and some will be underperforming because you've not been able to hold sway of the aggregate data of your nation. Indeed, the estimate that we're having about 206 million people is just an estimate.
You don't have the actual data.
You don't have the concrete actual data, and you don't have the substructures of those data. So coming to terms, we're beginning to look at data as that piece of information collected that can be used for evidence-based planning. Evidence-based planning, evidence-based budgeting, evidence-based implementation, evidence-based, aggregation of your quantum so that you can measure it. And you cannot do that unless when you build on your human capital extensively. Because we are talking about data, and data is the intellectual property of humanity. And you have to be able to control within your sphere, within your nation, that intellectual property, because it's about life and death. That is how important the data is. We're not just talking about the data that you are using online and whatever. Everything, the quantum analysis of data is what we are talking about in your own hemisphere. The criticality of managing our data, will not only improve our wealth of resources, both in health and all that, but it will be able to enhance, the creation of wealth for our people. When you talk about health, in those days, you're talking about 1955, University of Ibadan Teaching Hospital was being the center of healing for other countries. I learned that the king of Saudi Arabia in those days will come to University Teaching Hospital to be tested. And there we had people. What happened? There's data missing in action. The sustainability going forward has affected it. Some people will blame, this the military, this thing and whatever, but it's about data.
Data availability is the missing link.
Exactly. But then you should not be constrained by that, because you can still revisit your data architecture for the missing link and mine them, through archaeological issues, and to be able to recover, the perished data and pierce them together so that we don't just assume to make decisions. We will be making evidence-based decisions
that are accurate.
Yeah. Even about the issue of colonialism, yes, we are colonized. What does it mean to us? How many people died? Did our people fight back? Did they kill the enemy? Where are they? Where are the monuments? We know they're not soldiers, but where are the monumental aspect of the agility of the people? Where are the themes of the war of the colonial empire? Monumental data, which of course is akin to monumental resources. But people who will be here to colonize you, they must be eating, right? They eat food.
Definitely.
Right? Our farmers probably are planting, and they are also bringing them from outside. What were they doing? What were they exporting? Big time cocoa, big time timbers that build other nations. Big time granite that they used for oil refinery. What has happened to all those data? And why are we no more having the granite pyramid and the cocoa bag of stars that build the cocoa house in Ibadan? Those are the issues that we must interrogate and query them properly so that we can build, we can still rebuild. It's not crying over screaming. Rebuild them into a structure that people can learn. It's about steps, the trajectory and the scaffold so that people can climb on them. Now is that we have data stampede. So everybody is going here, where but you need to structure the path for reliance, for trustworthiness.
How we are going to develop, apply, and leverage on this for national development, and also how we can convert it for wealth creation, security, and other things, because these are the core issues that we need to address.
Right. Okay. Thank you. I mean, the indigenous content policy, or what you call the local content, as it were, that we have. If you have been through that, the origin of this content, the people who did it have tried, but because they were concerned and the approval came in. But when you look at the first bill, there are a lot of non-inclusiveness. For example, they were talking about, in ICT, they are talking about products. Okay? That is the Nigerian product, all right? In computing, you're talking about, say, about 18 years ago, there was no product. We need to challenge and say, indeed, services constitutes about, 40% and above of that computing environment that can create jobs. So we had to assume, so when they now did the second amendment, we now included products and services. You could see there were missing link in data because we always come to data. That product itself has shortchanged the country in terms of employment, in terms of knowledge, because all what they've been doing is the product supply, which of course is building a consumerism empire for other people who produce, from other countries. So we become, of course, the recipients of finished product, and we were not been able to do that. So how to apply this thing is very important. To develop it is building a data-first society. That's what we must do.
Data first.
We must build a data-first society. And you ask yourself, why should we build a data-first society? Because we want to get to achieve a merit-first society. It is data-first society or data-first architecture that gives you the cumulative of merit-first society, so that each thing you do will not be based on merit. If you have an engineer that can produce cars for each and every one of us, you must give that person, irrespective of where it comes from, because we benefit from his knowledge, from his insight. That will probably give us an issue that we discuss about other African countries. I don't know if you know about Botswana, but Botswana has become the leading, African enterprise, not just democratically, but in terms of trustworthiness and the achievement that they have done over time in their city, because they created a merit-first society.
So talking about the name SIM registration or interaction, as we call it, this is causing some hues and cries, because some believe that this is not a practice in a Sena climb in a developed world. And what is your view about the excessive and like impacts on telecom service.
Okay. Uh, the issue that we face is also coming to you because you've really let the cat out of the bag. It's about data. All right. If you look at the ITU data streams, it took people like AT&T, if I say ITU most especially, it took ITU almost 50 years to reach almost 5 million people in telephone, the handset telephone. It was a long trajectory. So now that we have the telephone, well, we have come to know that not everybody owns a telephone in the world. Data are there. If you have 7.9 billion people and you have probably close to about 4 billion telephone owners, there's still a deficit of about 3.9 billion. The essence, what we're trying to do is that the NIMSI Act of 2007, Act 22 of 2007 by the federal government, did really emphasize that enrollment to have a NIM number is compulsory. And it might shock you that we have about 100 countries in the world who have same law that you must compulsorily enroll, some from age of 16, some from age of 18. Now, to your question, how does the telephone aspect come? NIM, to have a NIM, to register your NIM, is compulsory. Telephone is not compulsory as ownership. That's where that, this juncture comes. If telephone is going to be compulsory, it means you need to manufacture telephone in your country and give to everybody. Let everybody have access. So you should see how, if data was really seen as a data economy, you will have said, oh, if we are making this law, but there's no telephone, not everybody has, how would we achieve that purpose? Then automatically you will have probably set back 15, 20 years ago, let's say 20 years ago, when we were embarking on the mobile trajectory from Ndukwe, Dr. Ndukwe, you would have said, oh, from this analysis and data we are having, we were almost about 180 million people. We need to start manufacturing telephone in this country. And anybody who wants a license for network must bring a manufacturing partner before he can get a license. People will comply, they will find the company. The effect is that you probably will have employed 10 million people working in the telephone environment now. After all, when you go to Asia, these telephones are assembled by women in the companies after the manufacture.
This special report is packaged by LJ News TV.
Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thanks for watching.